All right. Well, Ole
Exactly.
Miss played pretty decent football from top to bottom on Saturday,
I
I
would
would say.
I would have to say, even if it was against Furman, I think that 76 blowout. I think the biggest thing we saw from Lane Kiffin and his ball club is just really what he's built in his starting year 5. But the immense depth that we saw, I mean, we saw our third string, we saw some young kids make some big plays, and I think that's just a testament to what Ole Miss is going to be and how dangerous they can be. I think a lot of people have realized that on the we were always a strong team offensively, but defensively, secondary, we've had a little bit of trouble. But Lane and his staff went out there, got some really big size guys, powerful guys on the defensive and offensive front. And I think that that's going to be, I said it, a couple weeks on the show. I think those defensive and offensive front guys are going to be the unsung heroes, along with some of the young guys. And then, just the balance is creative. But man, talk about the depth that is in this Ole Miss offense and defense. And like I said, it's not just a one-sided, smoke show with this team. It really is in every single aspect. And I think that, some of these young guys that are stepping up and getting the opportunity to play, it only makes Lane Kiffin and this ball club even stronger down the road. Because like I said, you can have a talented team centered around, 4-star and 5-star top guys, and that's great. But we all know in this day and age with the length of the schedule, playing in the SEC, staying healthy is a tough thing. And I think now that Ole Miss has this depth, that they have a lot of opportunity, even if they were to lose a guy or they're having to, kind of reinvent the wheel. Now they have a lot of hybrid players where they can adapt and adjust. And, I really think that Lane running this program like an NFL model, you think of all these kids that they're on a contract here, NFL free agents. And what happens when you're an NFL free agent? You're playing your best ball. And I'm not just talking about, your veteran guys, your portal players. A lot of your young guys are stepping up, trying to prove like, hey, like a kid like Caden Lee, young kid started, true freshmen, Will Eccles, Cam Franklin. They're going to be some guys, some young guys that are really going to step up, trying to compete and really help this Ole Miss ball club this year.
Yeah, we note that the FCS matchup is an obvious win. However, there's a lot of teams that go out in that situation and struggle and kind of play around and only win by a couple touchdowns. And this is what the national powers typically do. If you look around the landscape of college football, they just throttle the opponent like Ole Miss did. So not the typical showing that you would have seen from Ole Miss in previous years against an FCS. They looked the part of a national powerhouse.
Exactly. And some of the recruits that, were watching and that were on hand, that's one of the common things that they said. I asked them, what really impressed you about the way Ole Miss to see? Because, this offseason, there's been a lot of speculation. The bar has been set high, but now we actually get to see it translate on the field because we're playing ball games now. It's not just what we see in practice. It's not just what we've been talking about. And a lot of the recruits that I was talking about that, like I said, were there on site or, watching the game. So they were just really impressed that Ole Miss on every aspect never let up. They continued to keep playing as hard, and then every guy got an opportunity, and that's what really impressed them. And they just couldn't say they just said how loaded they were, and that they just never eased up. There was never this sense of hesitation. There was this never sense of being able to finish and complete each play. Every play translated in a positive aspect for that. And I think that's one of the struggles we had a couple years back. We would play really strong in the first half or vice versa, but we really could never finish and close the game. And now we have the tools and the means, on the sidelines, from the play calling to the depth. I can't stress enough this depth of the type of talent that we have and the talent across the board. I think is really going to be the difference maker in this Ole Miss ball club. Making a run and really showing and that they're not just talk, they really are translating is to a very highly effective powerhouse team that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Jackson Dart was on point with 5 touchdown passes, only missed 5 throws. I saw Trey Harris had an enormous game, almost 200 yards receiving, I think 179, 8 catches. And folks, if you don't know it now, Ole Miss may have the best wide receiver room in the country. When I was seeing those guys pull down receptions last season, I would continually think, okay, here's another Ole Miss receiver led by Trey Harris, but certainly a few other guys that were hauling down passes that were just ridiculous. The defensive front. So that's something that you've highlighted with us a few times. And now we finally got to see them in week 1, and they were stout. I saw another number in the box score that you rarely see in college football. 16 tackles for loss. They just lived in the backfield all day.
Exactly. They were just able to make big stops and big plays. And I think that's what was our biggest struggle. We had Saban say it, we had several people say it, that one of the biggest struggles for Ole Miss was that front line. But Lane Kiffin went out there and he got some size and power, and we saw it today. Even if it was against Furman, I think this is only going to continue to be a strong progression. We had Cam Franklin, another young guy, make a sack. We have a lot of players like I said, I can't stress that enough. From the veteran talent to the transfer to the young guys that have just really stepped up, have really bought into this culture and have made the effort, to improve. And I think that we're seeing that. But I really think that getting that size, getting that power in the front across the board it helps when you're on defense, and it especially helps when you're on offense, being able to protect and allow Jackson Dart. And we see Austin Simmons. I think we definitely know who our QB2 is at Ole Miss. Quite a production. I mean, we saw Jackson Dart and Austin Simmons combined for, I believe, 529 yards, which of course set an Ole Miss, single game school record. So, like I said, that receiving core, they just across the board, I think just the connection, and you can really tell what they've worked on this offseason and what Lane Kiffin and his team have got out there on the transfer portal and on the recruiting trail. They've got a lot of players, I think, that are hybrid players. A lot of these kids are two-way players coming out of high school or play different positions. And I think the strongest point is that a lot of these kids have their willingness to change and transition because Lane and their coaches see that they're better fitted in a better spot. So I think that a lot of these players making the transition or being two-way players, previously at different levels is really translated. It's really helped them become more effective players wherever they're putting. So I think this plug and play, this NFL model that Lane and Ole Miss are running, just across the board, he's preparing them for an NFL game schedule and running it like an NFL program, from his recruiting board to the way he's calling plays. And I think we can see why that's becoming effective. And there's a lot of ball still to play along the road, but they're definitely more than as advertised.
Got Leanne Herring on the line from the Rebel Walk. Please join her right there. Leanne, anything in particular that you would like to highlight in terms of your schedule, your week, that people should be looking out for?
Well, as always, our team at the Rebel Walk is bringing a lot of good news. Of course, we're getting ready for this game against Middle Tennessee, and preparing for that this weekend. Of course, every Friday I hit the road. I just got back from Houston, a major blowout, but two powerhouses, a Houston versus Dallas team, of course, nationally ranked North Shore. Took down 38-0 South Oak Cliff. We're looking at a couple offensive linemen out at South Oak Cliff this weekend. I'll be doing Langston Hughes, two Georgia teams, Langston Hughes versus Douglas County. A lot of powerhouse recruits we'll be seeing there, wide receiver Aaron Gregory. So after this, I'll be preparing to get on the road. But like I said, always look at our team Rebel Walk. Great coverage, game day coverage. They can get you covered with all our game day stuff, preparing for Middle Tennessee. And of course, like I said, I'll be looking at our latest recruits and hopefully finding some new diamonds in the rough on the road this week.
Excellent. Leanne, good to see you. And hopefully you can stop by later this week and talk some recruiting.
I look forward to talking some recruiting. Thanks for having me on. Hotty toddy.